banning abortions after 6 weeks, effectively banning all abortions. Stupid. The migrant e-verify bills that will punish businesses $10,000 per head. Stupid. 60% of his agricultural output in the state of Florida is undocumented. Dumbass.
Ron DeSantis is expected to launch his bid for the Republican nomination next week. Chief Washington correspondent John Carl has the latest. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. Ron DeSantis is prepared to announce that he is running for president Wednesday of next week. In a private call yesterday, he told top donors that the race already comes down to 3 people, him, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump. And he suggested on that call that Trump doesn't have a chance of winning. At least initially, Ron DeSantis would enter the Republican race as the most formidable challenger to Donald Trump. Sources tell ABC News he is expected to launch his campaign next week with an online video and a meeting with top donors in Miami before holding a kickoff event after Memorial Day, possibly in his hometown, Dunedin. DeSantis has made a name for himself as Florida's brash and uncompromising governor. He's banned abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy and barred classroom discussion of gender and sexual orientation through high school, picking a legal fight with Disney after it criticized the move. Disney, the parent company of ABC News, announced yesterday it has canceled plans for a $1 billion new campus in the Orlando area, citing, quote, changing business conditions. A spokesperson for DeSantis dismissed the move, saying the state was unsure whether it would come to fruition anyway. DeSantis faces some big challenges going up against Trump. He came into office openly portraying himself as a Trump clone.
Build the wall. Then Mr. Trump said, "You're fired."
Oh my God, they're ripping into him.
Trump has called him disloyal, nicknaming him Ron DeSanctimonious.
Instead of being grateful, DeSantis is now attacking the very man who saved his career.
DeSantis has already looked like a presidential candidate since he won his re-election by a near 20-point landslide last November, making frequent visits to early primary states. But he's already made some missteps, including saying Russia's invasion of Ukraine wasn't vital to U.S. interests and stumbling during a trip overseas.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
The attacks from Trump may be hard for DeSantis.
Bro, it's Sugar Man. Let me tell you something. First of all, this video just ripped him a new asshole. The funniest part about it is that ABC News thinks that, like, the Republican primary base, not the national Republican base, not the general election voters, but the Republican primary base thinks it's a misstep for him taking a pro-Russian stance originally. No, man, that wasn't a fucking misstep. That was actually when he had the right instincts. When he turned around and was like, I'm so sorry, actually, we need to give Ukraine more money. That's when he fucked up, dumbass. Saying that, like, Russia, us getting involved with Russia is, like, fucked up is actually exactly the type of commentary that Trump engages in all the time that is very successful and very marketable to the base of Trump supporters. Of course, Ron DeSantis can't say that, though, because he's the Trumpian alternative. That he is the Elizabeth Warren to Bernie Sanders, okay? That's it. He is the electable Republican guy who is a machine politics dude. He's a machine politician within the GOP. He's a controllable factor. He's what the Republicans think is a good way to address Trump. It's not. They're wrong.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
The attacks from Trump may be hard for DeSantis to fend off, but the mere fact that Donald Trump is hitting him so hard shows that the former president clearly, at least now, sees DeSantis as his biggest threat to the Republican nomination. George?
And there are more challengers to come. John Carl, thanks very much.
This morning, we are getting a much clearer picture of how Florida Governor Ron DeSantis plans to position himself as a presidential candidate. The official announcement coming next week. But he laid out these plans in a conference call with big donors. We're going to have much more on that in a second. But there is also this new development that plays into all of this. His feud with Disney, the huge entertainment company and major Florida employer, announced that it is canceling plans, they did this yesterday afternoon, to build a new $1 billion office campus in the greater Orlando area. Disney cited changing business conditions as the reason for not moving forward. CNN's Natasha Chen has much more on all of this. Natasha, this is what, like 2,000 jobs?
Yeah, John, 2,000 jobs. It was supposed to be a regional hub for parks and resorts. So some of the Imagineers that design all the stuff you see in the theme parks, as well as some corporate jobs, consumer products, support functions like finance, technology, marketing, communications. This was going to be...
Go ahead. Say that it was relocation, though. Come on, come on, come on. They're not doing that, which is a lie.
At a complex in Lake Nona that Disney purchased. It's just east of Walt Disney World in Central Florida. And the move was going to take over the course of several years, and the company was giving people some flexibility about this. I'm now hearing that some people who did not want to move to Florida actually left the company and found other jobs to avoid that move, and now it's not happening at all. About 200 people already did make that move, and so yesterday in a memo, the chairman of Disney Parks Experiences and Products said they'll work with those individuals, including the possibility of moving them back here to Burbank in the Southern California area. Now,
to be fair, moving from fucking even Burbank to Orlando is such a major L. Like, that is a gigantic fucking quality of life L. Like, you're living in sunny Los Angeles, California, and then you have to move to Orlando, which is like the absolute fucking ass cheek of Florida. Like, sure, California's got its problems, but like, who the fuck wants to be at like the third best place in Florida?
Now, as far as reaction goes, Governor Ron DeSantis did release a statement through his spokesperson, and I want to read that to you. This was acquired by our colleague Steve Contorno. He did say that it was unsurprising that Disney would cancel the project given the company's financial straits, falling market cap, and declining stock price. Unsurprising they would restructure their business operations and cancel unsuccessful ventures. And when we did hear from other local leaders as well, Orange County Mayor Demings and the Florida Democratic Party chair.
First of all, they're not even wrong, right? Like, that's the real reason why Disney did this, right? It's not because like they're fighting against Ron DeSantis and they care about gay people, but the real reason is because it was probably too expensive of an endeavor. They got too much internal pushback. If you had 200 fucking people say that they don't want to move to Florida out of 2,000 people that were slated to relocate, all of a sudden you're rethinking the project, right? It's just cost benefit. Exactly. It's just cost benefit analysis. There's nothing other than that, right? But what are the chances that Trump actually says good shit about Disney to dunk on DeSantis? He already did say that. He said that last night. Because Trump has better political instincts than Ron. Here it is. Let's find it. I said this last night. I said, Trump has much better instincts than a career GOP company man like DeSantis who somehow forgot the purpose of anti-woke culture war battles. It's to distract the base as you help defend corporate profits, not the other way around. DeSantis, which, by the way, is better than DeSanctimonious. I don't know why he said DeSantis, is being absolutely destroyed by Disney. His original PR plan fizzled, so now he's going to go back with a new one in order to save face. Disney's next move will be the announcement that no more money will be invested in Florida because of the governor. In fact, they could even announce a slow withdrawal or sale of certain properties or the whole thing. Watch. That would be a killer. In the meantime, this is all so unnecessary and a political stunt. Ron should work on the squatter mess. Ain't nobody is thinking about this like Ron DeSantis taking a brave and bold stance against a pro-LGBT company. Everyone is thinking, what the fuck are you doing? You're a Republican governor. We hired you. We appointed you to deregulate businesses. We didn't appoint you to fuck up the bag for the biggest business in the goddamn state. Told you. Ron's got bad instincts, dude. Bad instincts. Doesn't understand. He is way, way, way too dependent on his own fucking, on his internal team. He is behaving like a fucking Democrat. Well, except Democrats never actually follow through on policy promises. But he's behaving like a Democrat in like in the way that he is operating in the wrong way. He thinks if I make a promise and I follow through on it, people will actually respond positively. Not realizing that historically speaking, the reason why the red wave in the midterms turned into a red puddle is precisely for that reason. Because Republicans fucked up and did follow through on a promise that they had made about criminalizing abortion. And then they suffered the consequences of that. Let's continue.
We're all saying that this is really because of the DeSantis-Disney feud that they feel that they've lost these Florida jobs. In the meantime, the Trump War Room official campaign account on Twitter also put up this tweet yesterday, quoting this story, saying Ron DeSanctimonious gets caught in the mousetrap. The culture of losing continues. So this really played into the politics of the moment. And of course, a lot of business decisions went into this as far as what made sense for the company. But you can't help but see this in the greater context as well of whether they will thrive as a business as they are having this feud with the governor of the state. John.
All right, Natasha Chen for us, thank you very much. As we said, this is part of a much bigger moment for Ron DeSantis. And the new developments are, last night he laid out his vision of a presidential...
Idiot. Banning abortions after 6 weeks, effectively banning all abortions. Stupid. The migrant e-verify bills that will punish businesses $10,000 per head. Stupid. 60% of his agricultural output in the state of Florida is undocumented. Dumbass. Why would you do that? Dumbass. You're dumb. Florida is not as red as you think it is. Dumbass. Pretty fucking red, but it's no Texas. You're so stupid when you fucking turn around and do that in Florida and you go against like Republican values, like core Republican values, like government interference in businesses, dude. You did two major fucking bills that undermine business interests. Immigration laws, and I talk about this on the second part of my tweet. Same goes for his new immigration policy. The entire purpose of immigration laws are to create a permanent underclass that has no legal protection and will work for cheap. If you actually fine businesses $10K per migrant worker, you'll effectively wipe out your agriculture sector. You're supposed to just say you don't want migrants, not actually make businesses legitimately purge all of the undocumented immigrants from their ranks by financially threatening them. The financial threat to businesses hiring undocumented immigrants has historically always been cheaper. The fines you have to pay have always been cheaper than actually not hiring undocumented immigrants for years and years and years. That's the whole point. It's a calculation that businesses make. It is deliberate policy designed to just basically give you a slap on the wrist when you're working your fucking undocumented migrant workers to the goddamn bone, and then when they ask for back pay or when they complain about like sexual assaults in the workplace, then you call INS or now ICE, and then you pay a fine to the fucking, federal government for basically taking them out of your, for basically making it somebody else's problem, only to then immediately go back and refuel with a new wave of migrant workers. I'm not even joking. Like, this is the express design for why our immigration laws work the way that they do. And I have said time and time again, if someone was like genuinely like a fucking fascist or ideologically someone was just like straight up not interested in having any migrant workers in this fucking country, then they would attack businesses. They would actually attack the businesses that hire immigrant labor. Some states have in the past, and they've suffered financial consequences for it. Alabama comes to mind. Georgia did it at a certain point as well. those states went back on these legislative changes that they'd made. You want to know why? Not because they like undocumented migrants or decided it was inhumane. It's because there was no agricultural output. When you make it so that businesses can't hire migrants, you literally are basically fucking ruining the main reason why you have immigration laws to begin with.
Potential campaign to major donors. With us now from Florida, CNN's Steve Quinterno. And Steve, I've been on conference calls with campaign strategists that sounded like what Ron DeSantis did last night, where he laid out his case for how he's going to win, and he sort of made it all about electability.
That's right, John. And we know that DeSantis has been meeting with donors for several weeks now leading up to this expected launch. And one of the reasons he has been meeting with them is to shore up their support, because a lot of them are concerned with some of his recent moves and some of his recent stumbles. There are Republican donors who object to the fact that the state signed this 6-week abortion ban. They're concerned about his waffling on whether he would support Ukraine.
What's going on? Is there an issue with the audio? I can't hear it. I don't hear any issues.
And whether this Russia is in the right in this war. And so he has taken a more direct role in assuring these donors that he has a strategy to beat Trump. And that strategy is to say, look, I am much more electable, especially in the states that are going to matter in the presidential contest against Joe Biden. Listen to what he told those donors, according to the New York Times. He said, you have basically 3 people at this point that are credible in this whole thing, Biden, Trump, and me. 2 have a chance to get elected president, Biden and me, based on all the data in the swing states. So not only is he clearly saying, look, it's between me, Trump, and Biden in a way that just totally did.
Oh, my God. Does Ron DeSantis think he's in the Democratic Party? Like, what the fuck? Bro, Republicans don't talk about electability like that. Because Republican politicians don't run away from their base. They run towards it. My boy, you're not supposed to say you're the most electable. That only works for the Democratic Party who's watching MSNBC. That only works for the Democratic Party primaries, by the way. You're in the Republican primaries. In the Republican primary, you're supposed to, like, do hate crimes and stuff so that they understand, like, you're with it. You know what I mean? You're supposed to say a slur and then go, fucking gay-ass liberals getting mad that I said the N-word. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're supposed to do to win prominence. You don't give a fuck about electability, idiot. And by the N-word, I mean nuclear. Yeah, Jeb Bush, dude. Supremely electable Republican candidate.
Dismisses the other Republican candidates in the field, but he's saying Trump can't get elected. And that's not necessarily surprising to hear that from a candidate who's trying to curry support. But DeSantis has really avoided going directly at Trump throughout most of this run-up to his campaign.
Oh, my God.
And yet he...
Oh, my God. I just realized something. This is a callback. Even Trump realizes the severity of the N-word more than Charlie. He literally always says, the N-word, you should never say it. Very bad word. It's not just edgy, folks. It's very bad. Oh, that you should never say it. Yeah, he equates the N-word to using a nuclear weapon. God, he's so good.
Here he is in very stark terms saying, look, this guy can't get elected again. I'm your best bet if you want to get a Republican in the White House in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, it's very blunt language, even more interesting, as I said, coming from the candidate himself, not a strategist there. So, Steve, where does this whole Disney thing fit into it, with Disney making this announcement just days before Ron DeSantis is going to make it official that he's running for president?
Well, it's just another sign that this back and forth between Disney and DeSantis isn't going away. It's been such a huge part of his narrative, and on his terms, he wants to talk about Disney. He made it a whole chapter.
Man, I'm just excited for the content.
In his book, he frequently discusses it on the trail when he's in political events in Iowa and New Hampshire and all these other states. But Disney continues to punch back in a way that puts this in a negative light for DeSantis, just as they did when they outmaneuvered him earlier this spring, and now suggesting that they are going to cut 2,000 jobs, high-paying jobs from the state, really is giving his opponents an opportunity to ding him as anti-business as he prepares to enter this primary, John.
Yep.
It'd be very interesting to see if DeSantis
told you straight up. Oh,